Hello friends and fellow VEDSies, happy autumnal equinox. So I love autumn. It is most definitely my favorite season, partly because my birthday is in it, partly because two of my favorite holidays are in it, Halloween and Thanksgiving. But I also love the cool weather. I love watching the leaves turn. They haven't really started to turn yet. Well, they have started to turn, but they're not really as vibrant as I know they're going to be eventually. I get a lot of inspiration from this time of year. It's the time of year that really allows my imagination to come alive, which is why I think it's helpful that NaNoWriMo takes place in November, even though November is probably one of the worst months for it as far as getting stuff done and being busy is concerned. But a lot of my best ideas, at least what I think of as my best ideas, I've come up with in autumn or in winter. Winter's another good one. I was setting everything up, the camera, the computer, everything. I was getting all set up. Nobody. It's absolutely deserted. I thought, great, I'm gonna have plenty of time. I put the beard on, I put the hat on, I get the staff, and I'm all dressed up like Amish Dumbledore. As soon as I do, 3 people go past. 3 separate people go past. So, hey, different shirt. I have been reading to you from a story that I wrote when I was 10, and unfortunately will have to leave off from there today and continue maybe in a couple of days when I'm back home and have it in my hands. Hope you can bear the suspense. And it was shortly after I wrote that story that my imagination really started to kick into high gear, and part of that was because that was the summer that we moved from the big-ish city of Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, to the middle of nowhere, Ohio. I spent the first 10 years of my life in various suburban-type areas in Illinois. The majority of that was in Urbana-Champaign, which is the city I was born in, and it's a college town with, at the time, roughly 60,000 people in it, a fair amount of culture. We moved from there to the village of Chesterville, Ohio, which you've never heard of. I moved a lot as a kid, but that one was the hardest for me, partly because it was the furthest we moved at one time, and partly just because of the culture shock, the sheer difference of locations. And it wasn't that I didn't have friends in Chesterville, it's just that the friends in Chesterville were either too far away for me to play with on a regular basis, or were just people I didn't want to hang out with. This meant that I had a lot of time to myself, and like I said, imagination kicked into high gear, and this is where I started to really come up with a lot of different stories. Hey, and now I'm inside and it's nighttime and stuff. Another thing that happened when I moved to Chesterville is I encountered 2 new mediums of storytelling, both of which were related to each other. One was oral storytelling, and one was reader's theater, which is basically a form of oral storytelling. At the time that we lived there, Chesterville was the annual meeting place of OOPS, or the Ohio Order for the Preservation of Storytelling, or possibly the Ohio Organization for the Preservation of Storytelling. I can never remember which. It was a bunch of people who had either made a career or a hobby out of oral storytelling, out of just getting up in front of an audience and telling a story, a ghost story, or a real-life story, or a serious lesson-y story, or a folk tale, or anything like that. And then reader's theater, imagine if a bunch of people came into your room at night to read you a book, and they each took on a different character or a different role in the storytelling, and they didn't use any costumes or props or blocking or anything. They just sat there and read you the story, each of them taking on a different role. That's basically what reader's theater is. All of these methods of storytelling have to use just the power of their words to basically open up your imagination and get you into the story without any sort of visuals or anything like that. Too often we just want everything handed to us. We want them to tell us everything. We want them to explain everything to us. We don't want to leave anything up to the imagination, because that requires thought, and thought is hard and bad. But I think it's important for there to be imagination in storytelling, and additionally, I think it's important for there to be imagination in reviewing. One of the things that helps me when I'm reviewing a story is that I have actually written stories. I have put together stories of my own. I'm not going to go so far as to say that they're good ones, but I've done it, and I have some idea of the mechanics that go into storytelling. But I really think that unless you really know how a story can grab you and how a story can open up your imagination, it gets kind of hard to review it. And at this point, I'm only barely aware of what I'm talking about, so I think we're going to call it good. Would you like to say anything, Jeffrey?
Imagination is good and stuff.
Imagination is good and stuff. I think that sums it up very well. Happy autumnal equinox, everybody. See you later.